America, and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Trying to get this up here. Hold on here. My computer's acting up. Let's see. Okay. It's telling me to do something. Hold on. All righty. Next thing on the agenda is comments from community and staff.
Modification of the agenda, President Holland.
Oh, that's right. Lynn, sorry about that. We got a modification of the agenda. Personnel.
Yes, I have added a addition to the consent agenda and provided contracts for our coaches. So that's an addition.
That would be in the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So we have a motion on that, correct?
Yep, we sure do.
Motion to approve the addendum to the consent agenda.
Can we get a second?
I second the motion to add.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Pass. Thank you. The next one will be community and staff. Comments from the citizens. No? I thought somebody was supposed to speak, Bonnie. No comments?
I heard that was a possibility, but I guess not.
Huh. Looking forward to that. All righty. If you're not hearing none, and if somebody come in at a little late, we probably can go back and have them talk at the end of the meeting if they didn't get a chance to get in or something wrong with the device here. Next thing we do is recognition. Dr. Tony?
Sure. President Holland, members of the board, and community, in recognition of National School Psychologists Appreciation Month, I'd like to note that our working hard and in every effort to meet with students and their parents and coordinate services with staff. We have 4 individuals who serve as our school psychologists. I'd like to recognize their great work. Austin Abromit, Jeanette Wilsey Kim, Robin Ricks, and Sandra Town. Thank you very much for your great work, and we really appreciate all that you do. Thank you, Stanley.
Next one will be financed by Marcy Bannon. It's the report. Any questions? Okay. Hearing none. Okay. Marcy, you're off the hook today.
Thank you.
All righty. The next one is Steve Ralph. His report. Any questions for Steve? John Project of graduation. No questions? Wow. This is going pretty quick. School improvement plan update, Steve. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Traditionally, our school improvement plans have reflected the focus on the district's strategic plan. But because the previous plan sunset last year and the new plan won't be developed until we have a new superintendent. And in light of this and our unique teaching and learning environment with COVID-19, we've identified 2 areas of focus that reflect both the constraints of the current environment as well as the opportunities. In short, we just kind of asked ourselves, how could we improve our current situation this year? One of the goals continues to be focused on improvement in student learning. And the opportunities of this academic goal are pretty obvious because we know that short of what we are built for in a traditional brick and mortar environment, our teachers and kids will and have been struggling. And so improving teaching and learning conditions for all is essential. The constraints of this goal are really time, access, and measurement. Because we have less time and access to kids, the goals need to be something being essential, but also, considering the constraints, doable. Another of these key constraints is measurement. And as I will report later regarding our highly capable program, our ability to effectively assess student progress has been limited by the remote learning environment. Therefore, all the schools need to identify goals that they can measure remotely. The second goal that we'll be focusing on our SIP plan is social emotional learning.
I'm sorry, Steve, I'm sorry. Somehow your voice is getting really far away from me. I don't know if it's just me or is anybody else struggling to hear?
Yes. Yes.
You're worse now.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
That was a really good speech. You want me to start over?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the second, my camera microphone was off. I apologize for that. The second goal that we're focusing on is social emotional learning, and the constraint that we have in this area is our ability to create and control the learning environment in the same way we would with kids in the classrooms. The opportunities we have are how to do this in creating a safe and learning environment in virtual classrooms. And this is a really key area of growth, is learning about and addressing students' social emotional learning needs. We talked about that recently at a board workshop. There's a saying that surfaced early last spring when all this hit that was Maslow before Bloom's. This refers to first paying attention to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which focuses on our basic human needs, which at the base involves our physiological needs such as food, shelter, rest, and it moves through things like safety, belonging, and self-esteem, all leading to the necessary attainment of self-actualization, which is the ability to achieve full potential. Bloom's taxonomy, on the other hand, focuses on cognitive processes, moving kids from lower to higher thinking skills. Another way of putting this focus is what Christian missionaries used to use when going overseas to remote communities, is they would say, people can't hear the gospel on an empty stomach, and which led to kind of a first things first approach to be more effective in the larger goal. The translation for us here in Ording is that kids' non-academic needs are as important, and for some kids more important, for us to address if we're going to be able to address their academic needs. The issue of social emotional learning has become an all kid and all teacher issue, where once it might have been limited to specific kids addressed by specialists. In a Maslow before Bloom environment, all staff need to have the skills to be involved for us to improve teaching and learning, not just in our current remote environment, but will also add benefits to us at the point we return to brick and mortar. And I would say not if we return, but when. And just want to give you that little encouragement. It will happen. So tonight you're going to be hearing from principals in two groups, the elementary and the secondary. Tonight is just an update on their progress for identifying and developing their SIP goals. And you'll hear everything from goals that are being close to being set in concrete to some that are still in development with their staff, which is important to also notice and note is that the increased level of staff participation in the development of the plans this year, and the principals can talk to you about that. The actual plans themselves will be presented to you at the December's regular board meeting. So I've asked the principals to give you a brief update of about 5 minutes each and allow opportunity for you to ask any questions of them. So I'll turn it over to the principals now and ask the elementary team to start us off.
OPS will start. I see Alicia just like it's that like who's gonna pay the bill, you know, whoever waits the longest. So Erin and I are still new at OPS, and I still consider myself new when I think about just how the school year ended. And we talk about Erin still has not seen most of the staff face to face. It's just like you're seeing us, this little picture on a screen, which is just a different interaction. We know that there's been a lot of changes at OPS over the years. And so we really believe, just like I know all of our peers, staff ownership is really critically important. This year, probably more than ever before. And so we also want it to be a living document. We've talked to the staff. We don't want it to be like a checkbox. Okay, we've got the SIP done. We gave it to Steve. We shared it with the board, and now we put it away. And then, oh yeah, we should think about it because now we have to share results with the board. We want it to be something that the staff believe in and are working on all of the time. So one of the things that we did is bring it to the staff at a staff meeting, and we just talked to them really honestly about what the SIP should be, what we want it to be, and we asked, what is the most important thing right now, academically and social emotionally? And that's kind of a big, wide open question, but tried to frame it in the environment we're in right now. If we had to commit to one thing to put on paper as our SIP, we know that we're still going to teach a number of subject areas, a number of skills, but what do we want to commit to and put a frame around for SIP? What data do we have to come together around on a regular basis? So not just now and at the end of the year, but whether it's monthly or every other month. Teams are going to be looking at that more often, but as a building. So we had an opportunity for group comment. We just put it out there. Whoever wanted to share could. Steve was actually at that staff meeting. Some staff chose to put their comments in the chat. Some staff were really quiet. And so we anticipated that. We had an exit ticket, and they had an opportunity to put their thinking in writing, which I think is always a nice opportunity for those that don't feel comfortable speaking in front of the group. And there were two questions. What do you think is the most important academic goal? What do you think is the most important social emotional goal? Erin and I then had an opportunity to look at that and work through. And then we brought it back to the staff at the staff meeting this week, and they actually got to see the responses from each other. And for the academic goal, we were really actually closely aligned. We have not completely crafted the goal. Like I don't have a goal to read to you. We still have a little bit of work to do around it in terms of what we're going to use for a tool and what we want our outcomes to be. But we know that we want it to be around reading. And we've talked about oral reading fluency and foundational skills. And we kind of have people that have talked about both of those. In most cases, our staff are talking about the same thing. And we've talked about oral reading fluency as an outcome, but we need to really work on foundational skills and teaching those to get to the oral reading fluency. And oral reading fluency is not just speed, how quickly we read, because we don't want kids just to read fast, but we want kids to read with accuracy and prosody. And we want to make sure that our staff understand that and that we're all speaking the same language. And we talked about why would that be our goal? Reading is required in every subject area. And if we can focus on making sure that our kids can access text on grade level, we know that that's something that will help them in all areas. So I'm going to ask Erin to share our social emotional goal.
Okay, so when we went through some of the responses from the staff regarding our social emotional goal, we had responses that we kind of expected, which was not everybody really had an understanding of what social emotional learning meant. And so we just took some time to come together and understand what our definition of social emotional learning was.
Erin, now it's your turn to, we can't hear you now.
Oh.
There you go.
Better.
Now you're back.
Can you now?
Now I know what I sounded like. Thank you.
Okay. And so we came up with the definition that the state has based on the CASEL definition, which is that social emotional learning is the process of developing self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills that are vital for school, work, and life. And when we use that as a filter, a lot of the other things went away, which was staff was worried about kids that had enough food, or whether or not kids had access to technology, and a lot of other things that people would throw into under social emotional learning. So we really just were open with the staff and let them know that we're not throwing all those other things away. We have to develop systems that address those things as well. But when we're looking at developing a goal that really measures whether or not our students and our whole building has social emotional learners, we're having to focus on this definition. And so we're fortunate enough to have a second step curriculum that really focuses on these specific tenets. And so we decided that we're going to go ahead and use a component within the curriculum that's called the Devereaux. It's a strengths assessment that measures those 4 things: skills for learning, empathy, emotion management, and problem solving. And we're going to probably use a pre and post measure for it. And the data from the pre-test, a sample, not every student, to build the goal in our SIP plan, just based on demonstrated need in whatever area that we come up with. So that's kind of what our plan is.
And PTR will take it from there. Thanks, ladies. So I just want to agree with a lot of things that Christy just spoke about, that this year building our SIP plans is just really in a different place than it has been in the past, and really requires another level of staff buy-in than we've ever had before. Really looking at how we've changed our instructional model, but we also need to think about, like, how do we even just with that, those changes changed even our goal setting strategies. Talking about that, how do we look at our data? That some of the data that we've relied on before when looking at our SIP plans and just overall school improvement, really some of those aren't here anymore in this current reality. And so just making sure that we're looking at data that we can look at consistently throughout the entire school year and that really reflects our practice. And another goal just being that how can we ensure that between both elementary schools, those goals are pretty tightly aligned, so we can just ensure that the academic and learning experiences for students are really the same and really similar between the buildings, that there's not a if I went to one school versus that. We really just want to make sure those are consistent. So just thinking about what does that look like for us at Ptarmigan, we want to believe that all of our school goals really come back to what our vision is, that all of our kids are going to perform at high levels academically and socially. And that means that we really want to make sure that we're focusing on reading and our social and emotional needs of our kids, as well as our staff. It's so important that we are using those trauma-informed practices, as all of us, the adults, as well as the kids, are experiencing these traumas just through all of these times. Kristen's going to talk with you guys really quickly about our academic goals, and then I'm going to check in real quick before you pass it off to secondary.
All right. Well, in thinking about our academic goals this year, we're right in alignment with OPS. We really want to focus around reading. We have students that don't have books in their homes. We have students that are struggling to access the material that we're providing for them. And we know that learning to read and being able to use text to gain information is key to their long-term academic success. And we know also that this year our data sources are really, really different. There are very few sources that we can depend on to be accurate and build from those and build interventions based on those data sources. So we are going to be looking at reading fluency primarily as a building. And within reading fluency, we are going to be pulling out specific foundational skills as they're appropriate for each grade level, but really focusing in on that reading. It's the key to everything.
Just thinking as well that if we want our kids to be readers, we do, and as Erin said, we want to make sure that we're really meeting them in all of their areas. One of the things thinking about that we know that if we have kids who have needs, we need to be able to not only identify those needs, but address and support them. And so that means that we're using the right interventions, but we're also collecting our data in the right way. We know that when we collect data in just one way, sometimes kids can slip through our cracks. So making sure that we have a variety of safety nets in place to be able really to reach all of our students. And so we're working with our staff to identify like what tools and strategies would that make the most sense for, so that they have the tools in their toolkit. As Aaron spoke to, around having a standard second step curriculum across the district is really supportive of that all of our staff need to have those tools to be able to support themselves as adults and learners while they're supporting our students to be able to achieve those. So we don't have a specific to say this is the data point that we're going to be using for our goal. We will in December when you see us then. But for right now, that's kind of where we're at right now, thinking all things of our academic goals and social emotional at PTR. And with that, I'll pass it off to secondary.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. First of all, I just want to say as kind of the high school, we're the end of the system, and I know we really have to focus this year, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But knowing that the elementary folks went with early childhood literacy, it made me intellectually sing, because I'm really excited that that's what you guys are concentrating on. In case the board doesn't know, our middle school and high school librarians are multimedia techs. They are currently doing a bookmobile that is going out in the community and giving kids access to books, as well as taking the Oregon Express kind of onto a roadshow. So I'm hoping, in fact, Gary Ann talked to me today and she asked if they could somehow get that moved into the elementary. So principals, I think they're going to be reaching out to you, and it might fit nicely with what you guys are thinking about SIP. So getting books into the hands of kiddos. So we're excited for that. At the high school and middle school, the four of us have been talking a lot with our staffs. The idea of one academic goal, I'm going to be honest, was kind of painful at first. And I was going to do a little bit of a refusal with Steve. And then what it caused us to do is really back out and go, what right now is ultimately important and essential for our kids? So then that's what the middle school and the high school both really concentrated on. At the high school level, I got to say, we can't let this COVID time impact the long-term goals, dreams, and aspirations for our high school students. So what we decided was we have to keep kids on track for their pathway. So everything we're doing right now is leveraging kids, and it could seem as simple as grades and credits, but ultimately it's making sure that kids don't make decisions right now that take them out of their pathway. If prior to this closure they wanted to go to college or they wanted to go into the military, I don't want them making a decision that's going to show up in their transcript that's going to stop that. So everything we're doing right now is around engagement and instructional practices that help kids find success. So although that seems really simple, it's very complicated, and that's what we've decided to kind of zoom out and look at the big picture of what we're supposed to do as a high school to end kids. So that's what we're deeming essential academically. And Kevin, if you could speak to what that looks like essentially at the middle school.
You bet. Thanks, Cliff. At the middle school, we're really concerned and focusing in on those basic math and reading skills. And our whole goal in middle school is to get kids ready for high school. And so we are concerned. We know that we have students that are far below grade level, and the reason we know that is because we have our Ames Web universal screener. We were able to give that in the fall, and so right now we're really thinking that we're going to work our academic goal around reducing the numbers of those students that are far below grade level. We're going to identify. We've already identified some of those students through Ames Web. We'll look at other methods for that, design interventions for that, and then reduce those numbers of students that are really significantly struggling. Oh, and then I'll hand it off to Dave to talk about our social emotional goal.
And kind of want to echo, thanks, Kevin. Board, thanks for having us. We haven't been with you in this capacity for a while, so it's nice to have a chance to reconnect. Aaron mentioned having kind of needing to recalibrate definition of what SEL and social emotional learning means. And honestly, we've had to do that as an entire leadership team as a system, because it's not just making sure that we're taking care of acute student mental health or social emotional needs. Those are needs, and we do check-ins with our counselors. But what we're really talking about are executive functioning skills, refusal skills, decision-making skills, the kinds of, they're called soft skills sometimes, but those are the things that we know industry is really looking for, kids that are successful and able to do that. And so we are leveraging we plan on leveraging parts of our intervention times. We have our advisory model that we're using to do that work explicitly. A lot of times that work happens kind of in the moment when a teacher pulls a kid aside and says, let's organize your backpack, man, or let's go through that binder and let's get you set and let's teach you how to use a planner and kind of walk you through. We don't have those over the shoulder in the moment contact capacities right now. So it is something that we're going to have to plan explicitly and then build metrics for as we move forward. So that's our work around social emotional learning. Matt?
Yeah, again, thanks board for having us. At the high school level, I'm just gonna tie that social emotional piece right back into what Cliff talked about, which is keeping kids on track for graduation. We started day one with our teachers developing lessons to teach some executive function skills around organization and self-regulation, time management in a high school environment, in COVID, remote learning, and the importance of that. So the social emotional goal at the high school is going to look like us continuing to instruct around that goal area of how do I stay on top of my workload? How do I manage the workload that I have? And I can tell you, I've been in classrooms this week and seen an example of that today. Teachers pulling kids into one-on-one meets and not only addressing learning standards in their classroom, but addressing what can I do to support you? Talking about things like alarm clocks, talking about things like reminders that they're setting through the use of their technology. And I just want to say, so we're going to really hone in on a social emotional goal around executive function at the high school level. I believe the data point that will be beautifully married to that is the achievement of credits at the high school and the progression. We're seeing an uptick. We're starting to see some positive movement with kids in the right direction. But I just want to say, board, you would be so proud of the work that our teachers are doing in our school right now. You won't believe the things that we're reinventing. You won't believe the way that, well, you would believe it because they're amazing professionals, and our teaching staff on the front lines with these kiddos are fighting every day for every single kid. It is hard, grueling work. And so we should probably set a goal for social emotional support for our teaching staff. But real proud to be a part of this team, and thank you, board, for this time tonight.
So at this point, I don't know if you guys are feeling like I am, board members and Tony and Lynn and everybody, but I feel like a proud papa. I think you guys did a really great job explaining of the kind of hard work that you're doing in this environment and how we're learning how to set goals and something that's completely different for us. But we wanted to provide a little bit of time for the board to ask any particular questions that you might have of the principals before we let them go for the evening.
I have a couple of comments because, as you can well imagine, this was near and dear to my heart. So first of all, I wanted to say, Cliff and Matt, you got to remember you are dealing with Maslow before Bloom when you help the kids continue on towards their adult life and self-actualization. So you're doing the same thing. One of the things I'd like to add to that when you talk about the Maslow before Bloom is when you were talking about the kids' needs. Please, we've got to remember to emphasize the family's needs because there are so many families struggling with this model right now. It's just, and I'm glad to hear that schools are making modifications in plans and in approaches because the families I talk to with kids, they're really struggling. They wonder, can we manage this or do we go to homeschooling? You know, we need to, just like we need to assist the teachers and you guys, we need to assist them because the kids aren't going to meet their needs without the family helping them to meet their needs. The other thing I wanted to ask is, with the middle school and the high school, like some books, or the elementary school, would you like some free books from somebody who has boxes of books? And I don't care if they give them back.
That's a yes.
That's a hard yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Please, please.
Because I have them K through 12, so I'll go through my books. The other thing I wanted to add is that I really like when Christy was talking about changing the look at fluency a little bit, because as we know, fluency changes depending on your text and your purpose in reading. And that, I thought that that really kind of aligned with what the middle school and the high school then was talking about reading, because reading fluency, when you're talking about reading in the content area, like you have a lot more of in high school and middle school, is really going to change what you're focusing on. You don't want zoomy reading, as we used to call it in second grade. You want reading for meaning at a rate that works for you, not necessarily the rate that it says on the Ames web. So I was really pleased with all of the things that you're looking at, because I see them really keeping the kids in mind. And I like that you keep mentioning being concerned for the teachers, because I know a lot of teachers are really, really working hard at this, and families too. So thank you. That was all my things. Thanks.
I don't
Any
have
other-
any real
Sure.
questions, but I did want to say that I appreciated the updates tonight. And I know that occasionally in our weekly meetings, when we get little updates from Tony, and he'll invite Steve or whomever in, that this is obviously a subject matter that we're all very concerned about. And in normal times, we all know that there are kids that need a little special attention here and there. And I understand it's really difficult to do in a remote environment. And I just want to commend building administrators and all the teachers for making it work as best as you can right now. And there's nothing that's ever going to go perfect, even in a normal school day when we don't have COVID to worry about. So kudos to all of you guys for the hard work and trying to think outside the box and paying attention to those kids. And when you don't see them face to face, that you go find them. You know, I've heard that over and over again. And that's a great thing. And I know improvements need to happen, but I think we got a great group of people here in our building admins and our leaders, and then the teachers that do the work on the ground with the kids. So I just wanted to thank you guys.
Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, I just want to say thanks to everybody, and please let the board know what you need. Come to us, because the only way this is going to work if we work together. So anything you need, please come see the board. Let us help you get to your goal.
Thank you, Stanley. Appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Building leaders, wonderful job. Proud of you.
Thank
well done, you guys. Have a nice evening.
Hey, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next thing would be a second reading of the policy considerations. Is there any questions on the policies? Second reading. Need a motion.
So this is the, I'm sorry, Stanley, this is the board policies that we put together as a board, how we will work.
That's the second one. This is the first one.
Oh, this is the first one. See,
Yes.
sorry, I'm glad I said something.
If you're not here, can we hear a motion to approve?
I will motion to approve the second reading of policy considerations.
I'll second it.
Be first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Thank you. Now it's on this, Melissa.
Thank you. I just got ahead.
Now it's on the principles of second reading. That's all right, Melissa.
I'm just weeding 1-9 down.
Anybody have any questions? I know Carrie is out today on her son's birthday. So any questions?
No.
Hearing none, can we get a motion?
I motion to approve the second reading of the Orting School Board operating principles.
How about a second one? The first and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Pass. Thank you. Moving right along. Next one will be the consent agenda. And we do have a modified item on that consent agenda. I would like Lynn to, before we approve it, just give us a quick synopsis of what it's all about. Hey, Lynn.
You're muted, Lynn.
You're muted.
I know, it just took me a minute. My mouse, I think the battery in my mouse is going out, so excuse me for the delay. Yes, there are a couple of additions to our consent agenda for your review and action tonight. One, you will see are the recommendations to approve the contracts for our athletic coaches. As you may know, I have been working with OXA and Marty Parkhurst and Cliff to determine how we can come together and provide some kind of sports season for our students. And so I'm just very, very pleased that Marty and Tyler Pauly and Chad Nazik have been so helpful, and we plan to offer virtual coaching, and we are hoping that the infection rate goes down with the new guidelines and restrictions that are in place. And the open season where all coaches can work with students has been extended to nearly the end of January. The original date was December 19th. So we have more time to do that. And when we initially discussed this with our coaches, they were, I would say, wonderfully generous and surprisingly reluctant to accept a stipend until there was an actual season. But our coaches are working with students. We have opened up registration through Family ID. And so we are going to pay our coaches who want to participate 50% of their stipend now, and the remainder of their stipend will be paid during their season. We know there's the possibility that the season could be canceled if our infection rate doesn't go down, but our coaches are still committed to continuing to work with their athletes during the season in either winter or spring. And so I know how important it is to our students and our coaches to be working together and how involved they are. So through great cooperation with a wonderful group of people, we're bringing these to you, and coaches will continue to and expand their virtual coaching. And so we want and ask our students and our parents to register for clearance on Family ID. It's just not as easy as making an announcement over the loudspeaker or putting posters up in the hall to make sure that kids know it's time to register and get clearance. So Marty sent out a email to all students, and if you haven't tuned in to Marty Parkhurst as a video star, you should check our website, because he did a really nice video explaining about the open season. Any questions? I think you might be able to tell I'm excited that we're moving in this direction.
Not hearing any questions, we can have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the added of the 2 items.
Motion to approve the modified consent agenda.
I'll second.
Been first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is up for discussion. Student activity support will be George.
We have
And this is a question really for the district staff. I know that with COVID, and I know we talked, the building leaders just talked about their academic improvement plans, but I have some questions about resource allocation, given what I've heard is the severe negative impact that our current situation is having on student success. So what I'm really interested in hearing is what steps or what resources the district plans on engaging to address these gaps or these challenges with success, particularly around the time where we just reduced some of our resources. So I'd love to hear what we're doing as a district to address student academic performance during these times.
I appreciate your question, George. As you are aware, I've had an opportunity to speak to our board members with some details in addition to the weekly update that I provided the board as well as cabinet members, describing how we are poised to refresh our student academic support model. We know today in the remote learning model that there are students that are just thriving. And I use the term that they are blossoming. But at the same time, we have students K through 12 that are wilting. And they're wilting because they may not have the adult supervision and motivation at home, that they may not have developed the study skills and built the self-esteem that's needed to become productive learners. We know that in the center of Ording, students are capable of, through technology, able to access remote learning quite easily. But in the unincorporated parts of the Ording School District, remote learning is too remote. They don't have the technology in many of the places, and some of the students are living in poverty. And so they do not have what is necessary to maintain academic progress. We know that it's essential that as a school district, we step up and work with our students who are performing poorly in this environment, more so today than ever before. And we are planning to do this in a variety of ways. Tonight, you're going to hear me talk about why we're doing this. I think it's abundantly clear why we must do this, because we have become aware of many of our students and their families are just finding it too difficult to maintain academic progress K through 12. At the high school level, we have students that are desperately trying to graduate from high school. And last spring, many of them received incompletes, and some have not quite fulfilled the necessary schoolwork to lift that incomplete to a credit for graduation. Today, we have individual students that are failing required high school courses. And it's essential that we provide them a helping hand to lift them up so that we can watch them walk across the stage in June. I'm proposing that we allow students to earn incompletes, but to set an appointed amount of time for our high school students to complete the necessary work required in the class to uplift their incomplete to a passing credit for graduation, that we return back to making sure that we do no harm again this semester. And we do so again second semester, just as we did second semester last year. Tonight, you're going to hear from Lynn and Steve on how we're going to do this. And Steve's going to provide some details there that have been worked on within just the last 7 days. This project is under construction, and by no means is it completed. We have much more to do, and we will be reporting back to the board in the earliest part of December for greater details. But we're driven by the need to provide a different model of academic support to our students through the use of certificated substitutes. And Lynn is here to talk about how we are going to bring this cadre of teachers together to define more closely who will be doing this work. And so I'm pleased to partner with both Steve and Lynn on the development of a more robust student academic support model. I know Steve has worked very closely with our high school principals and assistant principals to identify the students. We do plan to start small. We do plan to allow it to grow. And we have great aspirations that this will be a successful model. We must prove it to be successful because our students are depending on us to do this good work. So with that in mind, Steve, will you briefly outline some of the work that you're working on with the principals to identify those students?
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Yeah, we're starting by identifying the kids that we talk about being the furthest away from educational justice, and we're identifying kids that we are determining do not have access to the current learning opportunities, and defining access as could be internet connectivity, that they just literally can't do the remote learning from where they are. It could be based on an identified barrier other than that, such as homelessness, poverty concerns like Tony mentioned, or it could be a combination of factors that we've, in terms of the work that the schools have been doing, and it's been extensive in terms of, Kathy, I think you were the one that mentioned you appreciate the fact that when we're not hearing from them, we go out and find them, and they really have been doing that. And so, as Tony said, we're starting small. We're asking each school to identify what they're considering to be their top 5 students in need. We will assign a certificated adult to support their learning while they're in the building for a 1 per 5, which is a part of the safety protocols. And we are utilizing the safety protocols that Chris has put in place for all of the students that we're currently serving. We've had almost 2 months, if maybe probably 8 weeks, Chris could probably specify that, with great results in terms of preventing and mitigating any virus issues that are in the system, putting into play those protocols that Chris has done. So elementary is working together, and secondary are working together to develop their plan on what this looks like for this first cohort that they're bringing in. They will assess what's most appropriate for their selected kids at their grade level, whether that's a full day or a partial day, whether it's Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday. And they're currently working on that. Our target date to start this, we would like to be able to bring some kids back no later than the week of December 7th.
Thank you, Steve. That's a very ambitious plan, and I believe it's doable thanks to the good work that's taking place right now. Yeah. Lynn, would you like to talk about who will do this work?
Yes, thank you, Tony. As Steve mentioned, we will be using certificated teachers. We'll be drawing from our substitute pool. We're in the process now of confirming who is available to teach in person. In collaboration with our principals, we will be selecting those teachers and then making sure that we provide training, not only in the academic areas, the use of the technology, and some of our subs have already received some of that training that Steve and his team provided earlier in the year. But we will also be training them in the protocols that he mentioned. Part of the reason we have had success with our program with our special education students is our strict enforcement of the safety protocols. We know the infection rate is high right now, but we know these kids can't wait for it to go down. And so we will be working with those teachers, providing the training and continuing to provide the support, because this is a work in progress. And our substitute teachers will have questions. They will need ongoing support. But the idea of being able to place certificated teachers, perhaps with specific content area, matching them to the school, I think has great promise to support these kids. We'll start small. as Steve said, with 5 students and 1 teacher. As we're able to grow, if we have successful implementation without infection, we'll be able to add students and add teachers. So we'll be monitoring it, and I'm looking forward to coming back with a report to you about our success.
Well,
And
thank you.
I'm going to have a follow-up question on that. Tony, did you want to say something first?
No, go ahead, please.
So the question I would have, and I know Carrie has asked this question as well, about some data as to how many kids we have right now, either A, that are failing currently, or B, are carrying an incomplete from second semester last year. Because I applaud the idea of getting kids back into the building if they can't access it any other way. And I think that's a great start. I may wish to see it move a little more quickly. And I wonder how many subs, since we're traditionally low on subs in this district anyway. But I guess my concern is, you know, are we just sticking a finger in a hole, or are we actually solving the overall problem? Because by the way it's been kind of sold to me, I get the impression we have more than 5 high schoolers that are carried and incomplete from last year or are failing this year.
Yeah. Tony, would you like me to?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve. I'll add after it.
No question about it, George, that it's going to be easy to pick 5. And I think the part that I celebrate the most about this is, in our current situation right now, most systems are not adding any kids at all. And for us to kind of move in this situation and really try to expand on what we've done, we are really starting small. I agree with you. It's the tip of the iceberg, but we want to see it work, and we want to keep kids safe. In terms of your question for incompletes and D's and F's and stuff like that, the D's and F's, each school, well, secondary, are continually monitoring D's and F's, and that's evolving. And we've actually seen the numbers of D's and F's decrease since when we first started collecting that a couple of weeks ago. Part of what you'll hear from the high school when they talk about those D's and F's is some of this is typical at this time of year. Now, granted, they are percentage a bit higher than what we would expect, and that's what we're trying to alleviate there. We do have numbers of kids at sophomores, juniors, and seniors that have received incompletes, and every single one of those kids is entered into a credit recovery program that is on top of their current academic program. And so we've got them, we've got them by name. I've got them here, but the high school knows who they are and are addressing each of them as individuals. So really appreciating what you're saying about the number of what we're dealing with. We are seeing, since even 2 weeks ago, our ability to mitigate some of those D's and F's in terms of our processes now starting to work. In terms of our contacts and support structures, we're making some adjustments right now in staffing at the high school level for the online program that actually frees up Jennifer Pinellas to actually do some more of this tracing on working with the kids with incompletes and D's and F's that are in the option A part of the program. So it is evolving and it is currently moving. And so I don't know if I wanted to just try to respond. I don't know if I answered anything for you, but I'll pause and see if you have a follow-up question.
Not a follow-up question as much as a repeat of something Stanley said after the last presentation of material on the student, on the school performance plans. If it's a resource issue, we, at least I can speak for myself as a board member. I think student achievement, student success is among the highest priorities I have. So if it's a resource issue, whether that be money, people, whatever, we want to hear about it, because honestly, we're not in the business of saving money.
Yeah.
We're in the business of getting the resources in place for our students to be successful.
Yeah.
So I understand the need to start slow just to make sure our process flows, but I really would like us to get the people who need help the help they need.
Yes. We're of one mind on that.
Yeah, I think I've made it abundantly clear in my correspondence to the board, as well as individual meetings with the board members. And I'll read something that I think is appropriate at this time. Our promise is and always has been with our students to act without delay. The board has been consistent and passionate with serving our students the best we possibly can within the resources of the district. I have provided the board the financial means by which we can afford to implement this instructional support plan. Since it's under construction, we will continue to provide the board over the next several weeks more details and communications that will follow, so that it is a complete initiative in the minds of the board, and you're free to ask further questions in the future. But I am excited about this initiative. I think it's doable in the absence of any other similar program that's taken place in the past. This is new and exciting. And starting off with smaller groups at first and knowing that we needed it to grow is another part of how exciting this could possibly be. This could have long-term effects in the district as a potential program that becomes incorporated year after year after year. When we return to in-person learning, it should not go away, because we will still have students that are going to be failing and need a helping hand, and we as a district must be able to provide that in a timely way.
I keep hearing about adaptations. Then I'm grateful that I'm hearing about adaptations that the high school is making and how we're reaching out to the high school. From what I'm hearing, middle school students may be suffering even more with the D's and F's, at least what I'm hearing from families. And families are really struggling with that. And so I'm wondering how, if we're going to be offering adaptations and modifications at the middle school too, because I think that group might even be more vulnerable than the high school kids, as they have even less experience with the world and how to deal with problems successfully.
It is a K-12 emphasis, Kathy.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Elementary principals are identifying students just like our middle school and high school administrators are doing.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I didn't pick that up. Thank you.
Yes.
I actually have a request, I guess. I don't know, as we're evolving with this whole online model, first of all, thank you for the thinking outside of the box and coming up with a plan that's going to, even though it's starting small, it's something new and it's exciting and it's different than what we've ever done. I'm very excited to see how this goes. And Tony, as you said, that assuming that this is going to be successful, this is not something we would want to stop once we reached back to normalcy, or however that is going to look. I don't even know what normal is supposed to be anymore. But just thinking about that, what kind of data points can you give us? I would love the board to be able to have that specific information that says maybe in spring of last year, this was the percentage of students at each school that was really at risk or, not succeeding at all or flat out failing. And then same thing for this fall. And then after implementing some of this stuff so that we could actually see increases in student achievement in this manner, like this is solely being put in place to be that safety net and that stopgap for the kids that might completely fall through if not for some sort of intervention. And be able to see that data and be able to say, yes, we want to really grow this in the future and make sure that we have resources available to continue this type of program. So I don't know what the normal kind of data is for the schools and the district to provide the board members so that we can see this, but that would be really awesome to be able to focus us and to be able to say, yes, let's make sure we have resources available for this program going forward.
Yeah, I think it's critically important, and Steve will probably speak to this out of his assessment department, but I think the efficacy of what we're about to engage in needs to be precise and examine the metrics, past and present. And I think it would be well intentioned for us to conduct soft attitudinal surveys of our students and how productive it was for them and how helpful, and to gauge through parent attitudes, what kind of help did the district provide their son or daughter? So there's a whole host of questions that we can ask to frame on and tell us how successful we've been in implementing this program so that it can serve as a baseline for future development and refinement, of course.
Tony, could I just briefly respond to Melissa's request in just on one aspect of it, which is last spring as a data point. If you recall, last spring we were in a do no harm scenario as an entire state, and there were no D's and F's. So we weren't actually even grading kids. So we were kind of in a survival mode of just trying to keep kids engaged and whatnot like that. So last spring as a data point would not probably be, I mean, it would make us look really good. We look good right now in comparison to that. So we could do that. But I think if it sounds agreeable to you, we would use that metric starting from where we are at this point in our school year in terms of our current program, and then kind of measure the effects of that moving forward.
Thank you, Steve, for that reminder, because you're absolutely right. And that makes perfect sense. And I would love to see that from now going forward would be great.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
George, do you have any further questions?
No, again, I would love to see the data, and I'd love to see this aggressively pursued.
Good.
I agree with both of them.
All right, that's great to hear tonight.
That's a good idea. I think we should really work on that. And like I said before, if you need anything from the board, please come to the board. Let us help you. And George, you're right. We're not here to make money. Let's put the money where it can be helpful.
All right.
If I could just address resources for a moment. One of the benefits of the pandemic that we weren't expecting is we are using fewer subs. So our substitute budget is robust. We've only used about 20% of the subs that we would typically use. And so that is some resource that we have to help pay for this activity.
Thank you. If there's no other question, we'll move right along. Thank you. These are action items. Next one is Steve Raff again. Highly capable.
Yeah, my night, isn't it?
Yes, it is, sir.
Yeah. I've uploaded the documents in terms of the highly capable plan, and rather than go through the details of the process in the plan that we use to identify and serve our highly capable kids, that's actually part of what we have to submit to OSPI. I thought I'd rather just make a few brief comments regarding how that actually is different in this environment. When school closed last year, we were one phase away from identifying new students to our program, and we had completed our screening process through the initial assessment and referrals, but we were not able to conduct the comprehensive assessments to make the final determinations. So we are currently treating all of those kids that got stuck in that process as if they qualified. And we're currently working to build our traditional process in the remote environment in terms of assessment, and we think we can make this work. Our assessment coordinator, Jody Leonard, is working with our vendor to develop this. So with that, we would finish the assessment process of the kids from last year, as well as develop our normal screening process that we use for 2nd and 5th grade. And we're looking at trying to do that in the online environment so that we're not missing a year of our kids that are entitled to the services of this program. I'd say one of the things that I'm most pleased about was last year we put into place identifying highly capable building coordinators. And their names are listed in the report. And I'm really thankful that we had that identified and we started that process last year, because they're really a key resource that we have for this year. These teachers not only provided professional learning to our staff over the summer around highly capable students and highly capable instruction, but they are also developing additional kind of extracurricular learning opportunities for our current high-cap kids. These are people who really understand highly capable learning and highly capable students, and so what they're developing are the kinds of activities that are would be these kids with these unique learning abilities and interests would be interested in. So I'm really thankful that we have this in place, because it's really tough to move forward in a lot of different areas, and putting these people in play last year and then rolling them into this year was, it's just really, I'm really pleased with it. So with that, I'll just stop to see if there's any questions about that or about the report.
Any questions? Not hearing none. Was action item. We need to vote on it.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion?
I will motion to approve the district's highly capable plan for the 2020-21 per board policy 2190, and to approve the information and data in OSPI's form package 217 for the 2020-21 highly capable program plan.
Second?
I'll second it.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Pass. Thank you. Next one, the safety mitigation plan. Steve, yes, not Steve, Chris.
You're on mute.
Yes. So are there any questions about the safety mitigation plan? I want to really clarify the reasons behind the plan. Number one, it's fully designed to help support the district be able to apply for FEMA funds. If we do have a tragedy of some sort, or FEMA funds are available for COVID-related incidents. But without this, the county, nor the local cities, nor the local school district will be able to apply for those funds. This plan is 1.5 years in the making. There were actually two people before me who actually started it. And then over the past year, I worked with the Emergency Operations Center staff to design the plan, and then it was finally approved. And so there is a board resolution that does need to be approved in order to move forward, and we submit that board resolution to the Emergency Operations Center in Tacoma.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions? I mean, Chris, sorry.
No problem. Yeah.
I have a quick question, because I thought I read that FEMA wasn't going to be buying PPE equipment for schools after September. I thought I read that. Did I get that wrong?
Well, but that doesn't mean that the Emergency Operations Center isn't going to continue to work with us. They've provided free PPE for us. By free meaning somebody paid for it. We didn't.
Yeah.
We actually just received over 3,000 N95 masks. So just because FEMA is not paying for it at this point, we're hoping for some changes in Washington that help support that. And as a result, right now, though, the Emergency Operations Center has been in full support of us. So it has not been an issue for us to get those supplies for us.
That was my question. So if they change and they do decide to put money to schools so we can open more safely, then we will be ready.
Yes. And again, like I said, this allows us, it allows the county, it allows the state, school districts, and cities to be able to apply for support during any sort of safety disaster, a lahar, a flood, a large chemical accident. I mean, you saw all the things that were addressed in that particular report.
Well, I'm glad we're prepared. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, can we get a motion? How about a motion? Hey, George.
Motion to approve resolution number 4 for the 2021 hazard mitigation plan.
I second it.
The first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Pass. Thank you. Next one is Lynn, condition certification.
Yes, thank you. Our culinary arts teacher at the high school has taken a leave for personal reasons for the remainder of the year. And we were lucky enough to find someone who was in the process of getting their certification, but had not completed that. So the state allows us to apply for a conditional certificate, and we are asking you to approve that. He has passed his background checks. He's ready to go. He's ready to transition with the substitute we've put in place in the meantime. And he will, at this point, work at least through spring break and may continue until the end of the year, depending on the needs of our regular culinary teacher.
All right. Any questions for Lynn? How about a motion to approve?
I motion to approve the request for all SPI submission of a conditional career and technical education certificate application on behalf of Ramon. How do I say it? What's his name?
I think it's Maltonado.
Okay, Ramon. Okay.
Maltonado.
To serve as long-term substitute for family and consumer services for the Ording School District.
Second.
The first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is school board rep report. Any school board rep want to come up? Student rep?
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good evening, you guys. I'm
Good
so
evening.
glad to be able to speak. So one of the biggest aspects of high school are our clubs. And one of the nice things with remote learning is that some clubs have been able to continue, like Knowledge Bowl has been continuing. They actually had their first game today, which is exciting. Drama Club has been meeting, as well as LGBTQ+, and some of our other clubs. Choir is currently putting on a virtual talent show. We're holding auditions right now, and the tentative date for the actual show is December 12th, which is exciting. NHS, the National Honor Society, has been putting on some COVID-safe projects too. Like, we just finished the book drive, and here in December we're having the food drive, which has been going on. We've met, had some different meetings to talk about it. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have. Oh, also, I've spoken to some students, and the breakout room feature on Google Meets where teachers put kids into groups, the kids are really liking that as they get to engage more with their peers. So that's been working pretty well with remote as well as it can go.
That's great feedback, Nadine. Thank you.
It's any other, go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, I just wanted to say that in our regular board meetings, when we have these, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the evening is when the student representatives come in and give us a little look inside your world because we don't get to see that, especially now. But I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that. And I was super excited to hear the very end that even in these challenging times that there's something positive that you guys are getting out of it. It's really good to hear. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And I really like your lights, Nadine.
Yeah, those Christmas decorations are outstanding.
Thank you, Nadine. Any other student reps? Are you the
Hi,
only one tonight? Go ahead.
I can share.
Go
Can you
ahead.
guys hear me good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the only thing that I really have to share on is winter wishes, but it's kind of a bigger one. So every year we put on winter wishes, but obviously this year it's going to look a little bit different. But so far we've sent out a Google Forms to all of our students with like just a form to fill out like how the normal winter wishes is. And this year we have something where if you want to, you can donate your wish and it'll go to the soldiers home. So that's really cool. And it's just giving back to the community. And there's also, you can give your wish to someone like another student, like one of your peers, if you know that they need something like more than you need something yourself. So that's really awesome. So that's been going on and it's going to look different this year. I don't really know how like the whole gift giving is going to play out, but I think it's just cool to get feedback from students and everything like that. So that's awesome. And the only other thing I was going to say is that there was like a student-led, I wouldn't really say protest, but I organized group of kids who just were wanting to like get after school activities back. So that happened. I didn't go, but I saw like them standing outside with like signs and stuff. So that was just cool, just seeing like students get united and just for a common just wish and stuff like that. So that was awesome. That's all I really have to talk about. So
Well, thank you, Ava.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Any board comments? Hearing none, we're going to adjourn the meeting at 7:18 p.m. You guys have a good night.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.